Alrighty, guys, going to talk about a couple things in this video. First of all, Women's History Month. It is the final day in Women's History Month. So this month there was like a lot in the news about women's history and things of that nature. So happy Women's History Month. I don't know how many more Women's History Months we're going to have. I think we're actually moving more towards like a genderless society as far as everything like that goes. So there may not even be any more Women's History Months just because, a lot of people are trying to do away with, they call it the standard binaries for gender. So they're doing away with gender categories and like award shows and everything like that. But anyway, the women that really don't get enough credit um, are, well, I'm going to list a few of them. I think it was USA Today. They listed like a bunch of people who identify as women, and most of them were women. I think one of them was a guy. He was a transgender, and they just listed Kamala Harris. Some people that really didn't earn it, but as far as people that actually earned it, they missed the mark on Mackenzie Scott. Mackenzie Scott is Jeff Bezos, his ex-wife, and she's fantastic. She's amazing. She's done so much philanthropy. You can just like go and look at all the donations and just like all the charitable work she's done for kids and things like that, Boys and Girls Club, everything like that. So she's done a lot of great work. Of course, she wasn't recognized for her contributions. For some reason, they didn't do Venus and Serena. I'm not sure why. There was the film King Richard that came out earlier this year, so I thought maybe they would have like honored them um, for their contributions in women's sports. So that was like a little bit surprising, but yeah, overall, like women's history is it's definitely important, to learn about the historical women in the United States. The ones like we learned about in school, like Susan B. Anthony and Amelia Earhart, and then obviously like Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman, and there's just so many people that like really aren't acknowledged as far as women's history, like Ida B. Wells, who is she was a co-founder of the NAACP. So basically, she moved from like the South during like the Reconstruction period, and she helped a lot of blacks settle in Chicago, and like she was a co-founder of the NAACP, and she just like did a lot of stuff for black civil rights and things like that. Um, so that's women's history, and then today is also Joe Biden has declared it Transgender Day of Visibility, and I gotta say I agree with a lot of things he said. As far as you know discrimination, we don't want trans people to be discriminated against as far as housing, jobs. We don't want them being assaulted and stuff in the street. But going back to the women's rights issue, we also we don't want to invade women's spaces, and make them feel uncomfortable. We don't want transgender women to be able to invade the spaces of women's sports. That's women's sports. It's set aside for them. If you want to choose to identify as a woman, if you're a man, that's totally fine. Um, but there's just that it's innate that you have a physical advantage over women. It's not about you know being what they call transphobic. It has everything to do with just being fair, have a level playing field for women's sports. And I think no matter what side of the aisle you're on, you can be left wing, right wing, center, independent, Green Party. We all got to say, hey, we got to respect transgender rights. They have the right to choose to live how they want to live. They shouldn't be discriminated against in housing. They shouldn't be able to be fired because they're transgender. Um, and there's like a lot of violence towards transgender women and things like that. So we gotta all that is encompassed in transgender rights. We gotta protect those rights because they're American citizens. But then on the same side, we all collectively gotta say, but their rights can't supersede the rights of women who are biological women in sports and women's shelters, women's prisons, things like that. So we got to stand up for trans rights. Have no issue with that. But then women's rights, you gotta you gotta keep women sports fair, women's shelters. Everything has to just be fair. I think, like I said, everybody from every party can agree that we got to keep women's sports and shelters, all that for women. We got to keep it man free, um, and then we can still make sure transgender people aren't being discriminated against. So it can't it doesn't have to be an either or. It can be it can be both. So basically that's kind of my stance on women's history and transgender rights.